Welcome to the BEASTwriter podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to continue our ESPN's Top 50 NFL Free Agent list, brought to you by Jeremy Fowler. Now, I just went ahead and broke down who the number 2 ranked player was on Fowler's list, and that was none other than Silverback Trent Williams of the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to continue on the San Francisco 49ers side of the football, as the second player ranked on the top 50 was none other than Richard Sherman, who comes in at number 43. Now, before I go ahead and talk about this podcast, I just want to say thank you first and foremost for everyone who has been subscribing to my channel. Be sure for all of you to turn on the bell notification so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. You'll notice every time that you'll turn on the app or tablet, whatever, cell phone, whatever you're using, whatever device you're using, you should get those notifications as long as you turn on the bell notifications. So go ahead and do that. Do me a solid, alright? Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And before, again, I really appreciate the comments I got on the Trent Williams podcast. That was a big hit. I was looking at my analytics. Speaking of analytics, I know that 83% of you guys are still not subscribed to my channel, but yet watch all my podcasts. So please, again, do me a solid, hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen as I stay up to date and you stay up to date on all things Beast. One of the things that I really like to do is look at my analytics, obviously, so I know whether or not this is even worth it. Obviously it is, otherwise I wouldn't continue doing it. But no, do me a solid, please, because I'm trying to hit my I'm trying to hit my 1,000 subscriber count. We're almost there. We're trending upward. Every month has been going like this. I'm not even kidding you. To be honest with you, the first 5-6 months it was like barely nothing, and then one month it hit 55 subscribers, the next month hit 90, the next month hit 93, 97, 100. We're already at 100 in this month, and we're not even halfway through the month yet. So, which means one thing, right? I'm bringing content that no one else can offer, and the competitive advantage of following me is you'll be in the know before they know. Meaning you'll be in the know before anything else is reported, before anything else comes out, because my in-depth analysis is that good. My YouTube Twitter receipts speak for itself, and I know, oh man, this guy is such a narcissist. Well, I call it how I see it, and if you want to call it narcissism, if you want to call it hating, whatever the case you want to be, bring it, because at the end of the day, man, it's all about results. Like, no one cares about someone's analysis if it doesn't even come true, or if it doesn't even make sense. I look at it and cover it from all different angles, and I actually do the research, taking a step further, because again, I cover all 32 NFL teams. I don't just chime in on one team. Not saying that's bad or anything. I mean, that's just not my cup of tea. If I'm going to analyze a player, a team, a scheme, I need to know what the other 31 and the other NFL teams are doing. Otherwise, what am I comparing it to? Just the specific team that I'm covering? No. That's not going to get it done in today's NFL, especially in the age of information. But anyways, let's get going. I am pumped up to talk about Richard Sherman. Let's go. Don't you ever talk about me. Remember that Aaron Andrews one? Oh man, I'm the best quarterback in the game. Don't you ever talk about me. Okay, anyways, that was hilarious. I still have flashbacks of that. And the first time, I have a story about that. I'll talk about that later in the podcast. But yeah, Richard Sherman is an interesting guy and a very smart guy. But let's get down to it. Let's talk about Richard Sherman, right? So ESPN Jeremy Fowler put out his top 50 NFL free agents. If you don't have ESPN Insider, it's a paid subscription that you have to pay a monthly subscription fee for, or an annual fee. But if you don't have that, I got you covered. That's why you follow me, so you get inside information like this, right? So Jeremy Fowler says, when it comes to Richard Sherman, who comes in at number 43, he has him going to the New York Jets. Makes sense. Robert Saleh, right? So he says, Sherman raves about Robert Saleh, who was with him in Seattle and San Francisco. Why not make it 3 pairings? Sherman will have a market for his services, but turns 33 in March. Just like Trent Williams, he's going to turn 33 when the new league year begins. What a coincidence that both these guys are on the top 50 free agent list, and the 49ers opted not to re-sign him before the end of the year. Just saying. Inside information. No. And missed 11 games in 2020. Yes, Sherman missed 11 games in 2020. So he should be reasonably attained. If Saleh wants a star veteran to set the tone for his younger players, this is the guy. Jeremy Fowler points out a number of different things, and there's a reason why he works for ESPN. He's very good. And I'm just going to go out and say it, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to have forward thinking. I don't do things for clickbait, and one of the things that I have never done is clickbait. And the reason I say that, and again, if you do clickbait, that's fine. That if that's the way you go and you get views and you get followers out of it, my hat's off to you. That's just not the way I do it, because for me and how I built up my brand and how I build up my engagement with my followers is they trust the analysis that I point out or that I put out, my forward thinking and so forth. So whenever I talk about a certain situation, a certain player, and again, I'm bringing this up because some of you guys, or a lot of you guys, are new to subscribing to my channel, but I break up every podcast into 3 parameters, right? Who are the players or the coaches involved, why the move was made or potentially could be made, and the instant gratification versus the long-term gains, right? So Richard Sherman is a perfect example of how I formulate my podcast, right? So let's take a look at it and peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core on what Jeremy Fowler is trying to say, right? In my opinion, I think Richard Sherman and the San Francisco 49ers relationship went far too long. The 49ers held him a year too long. They should have released him after the Super Bowl run, which I stated in my podcast, so they could use that money and cap savings to re-sign DeForest Buckner, who was playing on a 5th-year contract anyways, as part of his rookie deal. People who are saying, oh no, they couldn't afford DeForest Buckner because he wanted Aaron Donald money, and okay, bro. How's that going for you? Price is what you pay, value is what you get. Warren Buffett. And if you don't believe me, check my very first YouTube BEASTwriter podcast. I made it a point to make it my first, and I said, watch. Making sense of the DeForest Buckner trade. That was the headline. And I broke it down. I said the Super Bowl window closed the moment the 49ers shipped off DeForest Buckner. And what happened? Here we are today. In hindsight, this is why you follow me for my spot-on predictions and analysis. Just saying, credibility is earned, it's never given, right? So at the end of the day, that's what happened. They could have released Richard Sherman, saved $12.9 million, because the Super Bowl was a telling sign, and I said it week in, week out. If you follow me on Twitter, I said Richard Sherman is going to get exposed at some point. I even broke it down on my podcast on how to beat Richard Sherman and how to attack him. And as it turns out, I was right. And how do you beat a guy like Richard Sherman? Well, you can beat him on double moves. He's not the fastest guy, but he is very savvy, so he knows how to play his technique, and he's very well versed in that cover 3 Seattle Seahawks defense, keeping everything in front and protecting the sticks. What you're noticing with Richard Sherman's game is he's playing with consistently. Okay, and I say this consistently. No matter the down and distance, right? No matter the down and distance, whether it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 7, 4th and 12, it doesn't matter, because he's consistently playing behind the sticks. Behind the sticks. You're supposed to protect the sticks. Now I can see you're protecting the sticks when it's 1st and 10 and you're playing with a 5-6 yard cushion and you're in off zone coverage. But you're not on 3rd and 2. Not on 2nd and 1. You should be in a press man position playing up. But instead, he continues to allow the wide receiver a free release off the line of scrimmage. And then with that free release, gaining inside or outside leverage for an easy quick slant or speed out for a first down. So you're not protecting the sticks, Richard Sherman. You're afraid to get beat deep. That's what happens when you're an aging cornerback who doesn't have the speed to begin with, to stay with these speedy receivers outside the numbers between the 20s who can run 4-3, 4-4. Because if he squats on the route, he knows damn well he doesn't have the makeup speed to get back deep and cover that respective deep third of his zone coverage. Plain and simple. Plain and simple, man. And is this a knock on Richard Sherman? Absolutely, it's a knock on Richard Sherman. Now, am I here going to be like, oh, Richard Sherman's horrible, he's past his prime, he's no good for nobody? No, I'm not saying that. because he does bring other attributes other than his on-field production, and that's what Jeremy Fowler pointed out to, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what Richard Sherman brings to the table, right? He brings in leadership mentality, right? A lunch pail type of guy, all business, no BS type of a dude. You know what you get with Richard Sherman, right? He's going to be a mentor to the younger guys. That's one of the reasons and selling points that brought him over to the San Francisco 49ers, because remember, when he came over, they weren't really good at all. They had no leadership back there. In fact, I would argue that Richard Sherman, because I covered the 49ers for well over 7 years as one of the team's beat writers, so I've been around many of the players over the course of the years, through all the different coaching regimes, that I would argue that Richard Sherman's leadership presence on the defensive side of the football was very similar to what Anquan Boldin brought to the 49ers from the offensive side of the football. And then when I started noticing the similarities between the two guys, and then I talked to the players, the younger players, and to gauge what they would say, I would save the transcripts on what Bruce Ellington, Quentin Patton had to say about Anquan Boldin compared to the younger guys like Ahkello Witherspoon, Emmanuel Mosley, and some of these other younger guys and what they had to say. And the common denominator between the two is what? Well-respected football player, plays the game at the highest level, and his work ethic is bar none. Film study is important, and the most important thing that they all learned was how to be a true professional, both on and off the football field. See, these are intangibles, and these are leadership qualities that a coach necessarily doesn't give you, because you're not getting it from a player's perspective. I see Richard Sherman coming in as basically kind of like a soundboard, or kind of like a coach, in a sense, if he was to go to the New York Jets, right, who Robert Saleh wants to instill, and he said in his press conference, all gas, no brake culture. If you're going to instill that culture, you're going to need players who buy into that culture. What better way to have a player who already buys into that culture, who already knows the system? Richard Sherman fits the bill. And as Jeremy Fowler pointed out, the Jets have a lot of cap space to be working with. So if you're a new coach like Robert Saleh, and you have a plethora of needs across the board, and you hold 2 first-round draft picks, at number 2, they're probably going to go a quarterback. I said Penei Sewell. Now I'm making that switch to Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. If they don't hold on to Sam Darnold, of course, which I stated in another podcast. But if, or whoever the quarterback is for the New York Jets, you still have other needs that need to be addressed. And while the hot topic is surrounding the quarterback, because everyone loves talking about the quarterback and it gets the most clickbait, I would argue that the defense can be shored up a lot faster than the offense side of the football, because again, you already have strong pieces in place with Mekhi Becton, last year's first round pick. You have your quarterback of the future, whether it's Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, you name it, Deshaun Watson, whoever that quarterback is. And then you can address the running back position, possibly at, I believe they picked number 23, so one pick ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who picked 24. Will all be in play for a guy named Najee Harris out of Alabama. Now, you're looking at a strong foundational core that you can work with and build with for the future, but then also bring in veterans that already know what Saleh brings to the table, and you're using Sherman as a soundboard to kind of further that movement. So it does make sense, right? And Richard Sherman missed 11 games, so to expect him to sustain a full 16-game schedule, I wouldn't be so quick to say that, because again, age is taking a toll on his body, and we've seen the type of production that he brings to the table when healthy. But can we rely on him actually being healthy? That's for debate, right? So again, should the 49ers let him walk, and I believe that's the right play, it comes down to the compensatory formula, right? And I talked about this in the last podcast in regards to Trent Williams. If you haven't seen that, be sure to go ahead and watch that. I included it up here. You'll see it posted up here, boom, in font. Go ahead and click on that. You can watch that. and I also included it in the description below in my podcast playlist. Again, if you miss any of my podcasts, because the reason why I formulate my podcast is I like to tie earlier podcasts, how it ties into this one, because I like painting a picture, kind of like an artist, right? Connecting the dots. That's how I do it, because no one podcast, or if you're good at what you do, no one podcast is not going to be unrelatable to the next one. It should all tell a story and paint a picture. It should be like a book, right? Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, ooh, chapter 4, and then the final chapter. It's not just everything's here, and just throwing out random crap out there. I hate watching podcasts or listening to people on Twitter who just put, let's just take every angle. No, bro, that's garbage. Anyways, the compensatory pick formula, let's get back to that, right? So it's a foundation principle algorithm that's derived from a number of different factors. The NFL doesn't want you to know exactly the formula, but there are some foundational truths to the formula. And I'm going to break that down. Again, I already talked about it in the Trent Williams podcast, but here it is if you haven't saw that one yet. It goes by performance, percentage of snaps played, off-season awards, APY, how much a player is making annual per year, and then obviously the free agents lost versus free agents gained, right? So you take that formula into account, and that's going to trigger a compensatory pick based on those factors. Now, losing Richard Sherman and Trent Williams obviously are huge factors in that formula. I think the plus minus differential is probably the biggest one, and rightfully so. So if you lose Trent Williams and you lose Richard Sherman, at least the 49ers get some kind of compensatory pick in return for losing those star players. Well, that'll be it for today. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you did, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen as we keep things all beast all the time. And be sure, again, if you know someone, how I should say this, if you know someone that would like my stuff, because obviously you like my stuff, but if you know someone that would like my stuff, just shout out one of my videos, reshare it, tweet it out, put it on Facebook and all your social media outlets, because again, I'm trying to build up the BEASTwriter family. Obviously, anyone who joins and subscribes to my channel is part of the BEASTwriter family. That's why you notice in my comments I always bring up the BEASTwriter family, because that's what I like to bring here is social media engagement. I just talked to Vernon Freeman earlier this morning, and it really makes my job more rewarding when I hear guys like Vernon Freeman who says, hey man, I've been following you for many years, man, and I kind of went off Twitter and I found you based on YouTube, recommended videos or whatnot, and I'm glad I did, because of the fact that you have really good insight and stuff to bring to the table. So all I have to say is that made my day. I mean, it's stuff like that, little things that make my day. And again, I'm not making any money right now off this because I don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. So I'm counting on you guys to be my sounding board, just like Richard Sherman, in order to kind of build up the BEASTwriter family. And the reason for that is because, again, like, this is my passion. I'm doing this for free. This takes a lot of time for me to be doing it for free. But again, it's my passion. I love doing this, and I feel like all it takes is one person to see my podcast video, and then this shit goes viral, right? This ship goes nuts, right? So let's ride the ship. Let's keep this thing going as we keep all things beast, right? Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day. I'll be sure to put up another podcast. Please leave your comments on Richard Sherman. I want to hear from all of you guys, whether it be Vernon Freeman, JP, Alex Faulkner, Sanjay, Lindy May, you name it. I mean, the Bunk, you have great insight, man. There's a lot of you guys out there, man, off the top of my head. And again, I respond to every single comment, and the reason I do that is because no voice is bigger than anyone else's. Like, I feel like the content that I put out will give you guys a certain perspective, and whether you agree to disagree, I always encourage feedback and analysis, and your analysis, because I like seeing it from a different perspective. Or if you agree with me, obviously, then yeah, put that in there too. But I always like to hear your voice one way or another, because again, like, it's all about social media engagement, right? If I just put something out there and don't get back to you, be like, dude, what the hell? This guy thinks he's so cool. He can just put out content and push content, and because of where he doesn't have to give back to his fans. No, I've never been about that. You guys know that because I do my BEASTwriter giveaways that goes viral every time during training camp and starts into then on into the year, where I give out free season tickets. So you guys know I do this stuff, and it's my own money. You know, I have season tickets to the 49ers. I give those free every year, and they're good seats. They're not horrible seats. Well, at Candlestick it was front row seats, and then at Levi Stadium it's in section 134. So you guys know, as much as you guys give back to me, the more I can give back to you. So that's why I say, please share my videos, and be sure to hit the subscribe button, most importantly, and turn on the bell notification so you get notified when I go live and when I upload content, so we can start monetizing this business. All right, that's all I gotta say, man. Thank you for tuning in. I'll bring in another podcast later on this evening. I'll be sure to do, my goal is to do about 2 podcasts a day, if not 1. So every day I'll be churning podcast after podcast after podcast. So obviously you guys have lives. You won't be able to catch up on everything. That's why I include at the very end of each podcast a podcast playlist. So if you notice, like right now at the end of each podcast, you'll see, you know, a video, and then you see a podcast playlist, and then you'll see my it'll be on this side, right? So you'll see my podcast playlist, and then you'll see a video, and then you'll see my subscription channel. So be sure to go ahead and click on that. If you missed anything, my podcast playlist is included in the description of every podcast, so you can play catch up, because again, I post all my content there, and it's basically like a loop of all my podcasts. So you can see what I had to say. You can actually go back and see what I had to say in real time, check my YouTube receipts, and be like, hey man, Justin Jefferson, he actually said this before Justin Jefferson blew up. He said this before the draft, that the Niners should have traded down for Justin Jefferson, and how come the Niners didn't do that? He said Javon Kinlaw was going to be a proverbial boomer bust, and that trading DeForest Buckner was the wrong move, and that they would ease the blow by reaching for Javon Kinlaw. And then what happened? He said to bench freaking Tyler Lockett after having a 200-yard receiving game in favor of Brandon Ayuk for fantasy football. What happened? He said, you guys get the picture? Like, duh. He said Deshaun Watson, that the Niners were the most intrigued landing destination for Deshaun Watson. What does Jason La Canfora report 2 days later? Deshaun Watson was intrigued by joining the San Francisco 49ers. Just saying, man. That's why you follow me, man. Be in the know before you know. That's a wrap. I'll be back later on today doing another podcast. I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys let me know in the comment section what podcast you want next. I'll be sure to put an upvote on that, and we'll get that ball rolling. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good day. BEASTwriter.